with a special, hang on, with a special performance by Chris O'Carroll. And at 7 o'clock, we will have our normal Writers' Night Out. And at any time during that Writers' Night Out, you can make a donation. Straw Dogs has been around for 12 years, and Writers' Night Out has been around for 10 years. It will be our 10-year birthday. So we really want 10 more years of Writers' Night Out, and it takes a little bit of money to make all of this happen. In June, our June Writers' Night Out is going to be spectacular because it is going to be at Michelson Gallery in Northampton. And I know, I'm so excited. Yeah. It will be our first time together since March 2020. So it's a big open space, high ceilings. Wear a mask if you want to, if you feel a little better wearing a mask, but it will be our first time being together. I think that is it. And we've got lots of surprises for that night, including letting you know where our new permanent home will be. We have one shot at Michelson Gallery, so we have to make it really good. I will be drawing names in a minute, but Mackie, would you please make our most special introduction?
Certainly, I'm very happy to do this. I want to introduce you to Regine Jackson. Regine, can you wave your hand or something so people know who you are? Who is our new emerging writer fellow, Regine will start her fellowship in May, and we've already been talking to her to see what sorts of resources and things she may need for her upcoming year, but she's already got a lot of really good ideas. We're really excited about working with her. And I suggested that she come to Writers' Night Out tonight just to see what a warm, friendly group this is. So welcome, Regine.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to learning more about all of you and hopefully meeting you in person in the next couple of months.
I hope so too. And I hope you come to Writers' Night Out in June. We really can meet in person then.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mackie. So what happens now is I put all of the names face down that people who want to read at open mic, and there are about 20 of you. So I pull names, and then Rick will take it from there. So our first reader is Gary.
May I interrupt for a brief second? This is Tanya Santos, Rio's mom. And in consideration that this is a school night, I'm wondering if you would make an exception to your process and let her go early on?
We could do that. I think we can do that. Does anyone have a problem with our featured readers going first?
No.
All right. All right. In that case, forget everything I just
Sorry, and
said.
thank you so much.
Gary is still number one.
All right, so let me do the introductions for our featured readers very briefly. Karen Skolfield is the Poet Laureate of Northampton. I'm not sure when her term ends in 2022. Her book, Battle Dress, won the Barnard Women's Poet Prize. Her book, Frost in the Low Areas, won the 2014 Penn New England Award in Poetry. One of the really most interesting things I always think of when I think of Karen is, aside from loving her work, is that she was a U.S. Army, she is a U.S. Army veteran. And on top of that, she teaches writing to engineers at UMass Amherst. Rio Santos is Northampton's first Poet Youth Laureate, if I've got that right. She also writes short stories. And Rio, I'm getting this from a newspaper article that you may be interested in dabbling with a novel at some point. Northampton is just the third city in Massachusetts to appoint a Youth Poet Laureate. I believe Rio is currently in 9th grade at Northampton High School. So I turn it over to Karen and Rio.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. Rio, did you want to go first? What do you want to do? We didn't discuss.
It doesn't matter.
In that case, I guess I'll go. Let me get my timer going so I can keep track. Sorry, I would have been all queued up, but I was unprepared for that switch. Okay. So now that you talked about Battle Dress, I wasn't going to read anything from it, and now I feel like I should, so I will. I'm just going to read the first poem in the book, and that will be it from the book. So when I was trying to think about, I wanted to write about my time in the service, but it was a long time ago, and it didn't seem all that interesting to me. It was, I enjoyed my time in the military. I was also glad to be out of it, and I've been involved in Veterans for Peace and Warrior Writers since then, but devoting a whole book to it seemed like a really hard thing to do. So one of the things that I did to approach it was thinking about the etymology of words. And so this poem takes a word that you hear a lot, which is the word enlist. And then I use the etymology to write the poem. So it sounds like the title sounds like a dictionary entry. It is enlist, origin, German, to court, to woo. Perhaps with a desk between, some chaste space, the recruiter leaning forward, warm bodies on the other side. Of the teenagers present, one will lie about her age, one will eat bananas to make weight, one pull herself from small town quicksand. Lace the hands behind the head, look good in a uniform, look nonchalant. Army doesn't take everyone, maybe you, maybe not. Lose 10 pounds, no back talk, straight-spined, clear-eyed, more than anything in your sad life this matters. Memorize the ranks, don't act smart, go on long runs, carry a pack, push-ups wouldn't hurt. Don't get pregnant, don't wet the bed, first things they check. Don't lie, but mark no as much as you can, maybe a little more. To be added to a list or a catalog. To see one's name nestled among other names, included, individual, but part of, how an engine won't run with a part misplaced, how the lug nut informs the wheel. Takes all kinds, some love KP, some the motor pool, surveillance, fire support, supply specialist, infantry, from the Latin for children. You'll learn to work together. That's how the Army is. Someone's got to be the firing pin, someone else the trigger. And then I'm gonna read some more recent stuff. The first one is called Trap Street, and Trap Street is an invention, basically, by cartographers that are used. It's used to catch people stealing the work that they've done. So they draw pretend streets. And if you're interested, you can read about some kind of famous trap streets that were drawn into maps to try to protect the people who are putting all their time and effort into drawing these maps. But I love the whole idea. So Trap Street. Twitch of the cartographer's hand and a street is born. Macadam free, a tree-lined absence, paved with nothing but a name. No sidewalks, no chalk, no children's voices, a fence unlinked from its chains, the cars unmoored, corn left to its rubble, some wandering mailman, a house unbuilt, the bricks unlaid, the mortar unmixed. Of the things that hold more things together, the cementitious crumbles on this street. The lime breaks from the shale, the shells from their marl and clay. On trap streets, the rules of gravity bend, curve to the mountain or fight it, dogleg the impossible angle, ribbon the gully, shimmer from heat, unspool. Cliff walk, some miracle mile meant only for goats, a meander of cloven hooves, a stitching of strip mines, red earth or white, ground that once spotted we call disturbed. And then I thought I would read at least one very obviously local poem. I have been thinking about putting together a collection, which means writing a whole lot of poems anyway, on museums, and not really so much ekphrastic pieces, which are, as most of you will know, they're one art form responding to another form. So I wasn't so interested in doing that, but about bringing in all experiences to museums and thinking about those museums. And so this one's called the Hadley Farm Museum. And it used to be called something like the Hadley Farm Museum, which I've never been to and will probably never get to. And I decided that was too long. So the Hadley Farm Museum. Of the 7 tilling methods used for asparagus fields, which one was favored? I fear I may get to the museum and never get the answer. What if I go and no one has written in creeping hand on little cards affixed with ancient push pins? What if the lighting's new? What if the carpeting's been recently replaced? What if there are a dozen visitors and the docent doesn't care I'm there? What if it's an intern playing with her phone and she's from California? What if the museum has sent the stagecoach for repair? What if there were no clever method for despining cucumbers? What if farmers never even read the almanac? What if they were busy at the solstice doing other things? What if no one really put pies on the sill? My grandparents were dairy farmers. I remember jumping from the hayloft with my brother, the bounce and smell of it. What if we talked sometime and that never happened? What if his hair has always been dark brown and never the color of just threshed wheat? I'm sorry I didn't call when your son, my nephew, went to prison. I didn't want to ask the questions. I didn't want to hear the answers. Do they have regular visiting hours? In my head, there's an image of what the room must look like. I want him both comfortable and uncomfortable at once is the problem. Last May 2021, I had a month-long writer's retreat, a writing fellowship to Art Omai in New York, Ghent, New York. And if you've never been there, please, if you have a sweetie in your life, take your sweetie on a date to Art Omai. Art is one word, then the next word is O-M-I, Art Omai. Because it's a fabulous place. It's a 150, 200 acre outdoor sculpture park. And you just can wander around. You can bring your dog, have a picnic. It's really fantastic. And they also do these writing retreats. And so I got to be there for a month, and it's basically a museum. So I continued with my museum project while I was there. So, and I do look at a lot of the artwork while I'm there and sort of see where it takes me. So one of the pieces of art that they still have, some of it rotates, but am pretty sure they still have this piece for the next year, which it looks like a giant, well, it looks like a giant goat, but on like a pogo stick, if you can imagine that. It's kind of hard to imagine, but it's humongous. And it's, you know, kids love it. It's kind of amazing. So, and it's 40 feet long. So this is called Goat in Repose. Next to the visitor center is a giant goat's head. Still, I try not to be too attached. Things disappear, and today I could round the curve and find only dirt, hard packed, in the shape of a giant goat's head, children crying for the goat's head, bleeding where in their little voices. They haven't learned yet that to love a giant goat's head is to court disappointment. Nothing has prepared them for life without a giant goat's head. And though there will be plenty of sadness tipped in like terrible ingredients into the saucepan, for now, they're not ready. They think a giant goat's head is permanent, immutable as the Catskills, which wear so slowly, no one notices the rate at which they remove their coat. Everything on loan here. The dates of the artwork, I've been alive since their creation. And what was I doing then besides dusting the curios, thinking my backbone would stay sure as a plumb line? All the while, artists wound the tree trunks in cloth, sculpted a titanic eye. Last night, I arranged the pillows, assuming I slept near a giant goat's head. But in the moment, how could I be sure? Once I'm told there was a giant deer. So I allude to my backbone in there and some potential health problems. And this next poem goes into those a little bit more. It's called 5 feet 9 inches. I suppose I could have been 5 feet 9 inches like my brother. What was stopping me? In science fiction, the people on planets with 1+ Earth gravity are short, shaped like large coffee cans, meaty hands, impressive thighs. The people with 1- Earth gravity are ethereal saplings with leafy fingers, tender necks, blonde or ginger tendencies, no eyebrows. It's easy for the coffee can people to travel to other worlds, less so for the succulent twigs. What would I do with an extra 7 inches of Karen? It wouldn't buy me basketball. I don't need a taller husband. And with the spine thing, it would be 7 more inches of osteophytes, a crop of bones I didn't know existed until I grew some. 1 Earth gravity and how it rubs the spurs against the nerves. Nervous. Makes sense now. Also haywire. I laid my 5 feet 2 inches against my husband's 6 feet and told him all about gravity and my alien landscape, where he could and couldn't go. And I'm going to finish with this one, which is, you won't know it, but I will always know and feel fond of it, that it takes place at Art Oh My. And traveling, actually like meeting people and having our masks off and eating meals together in March 2021 just felt unbelievable. This is called Spoons of Travel. What surprised me the most about traveling again was the lack of comfortable spoons. I expected moaning box springs, showers seesawing, they're hot and cold, room heaters with minuscule instructions and a stuck access cover. The spoons, though, were heavy as dumbbells, my arm tired at the thought of soup, the table bowed down if we all had stew. Something was gravitationally off, the Earth's center calling for the spoons, and we began leaving little piles of them on all the picnic tables, daring the wind, but even the strongest gusts left the spoons unmoved. We watched them in fear, the storm closing in. We discussed a rescue. The spoons were not ours. Should we care? How much did we owe the spoons? A lightning strike might not harm the spoons, so rugged were they. A single spoon in a resident's pocket was enough to nail her in place. And yes, I was one morning that resident, stuck in the kitchen, near the coffee, but unable to reach it. And I thought of that morning with a leftover hunger. I was the first to say it, how I did not love the spoons. They were not my spoons. I told stories of my home spoons, and it turned out everyone had stories, spoons passed down from an oma or baba, an abuelo or avo. We'd had a year of lockdown, and yet we so quickly missed our spoons, the balance of them, how our ancestral spoons loved our mouths in ways the spoons of travel could not. Our home spoons were model spoons, we agreed, their regal necks, the bowl that anticipated our every want. But what if, Petra said, the pandemic has broken us? What if it was not the fault of the travel spoons, which had not changed, but our mouths, soft and yawning, attached to throats grown hoarse with neglect? What if, all along, these are the spoons we've been missing, but no longer fit us? We argued, we shook our heads. It was too much to consider our own damage. When we cried, the tears ran in the shapes of spoons, first straight and well-defined, then warping at the handle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. And I can't wait to come back and ask you some questions about your writing. But now I would like to open it up to Rio.
Ria, if you prefer to see the gallery view, just go up to the upper right-hand corner and you can change how you're seeing yourself if you're more
I know.
Okay.
I called this one Whispers of the Wind. The first one says, I saw a distant crack of thunder, the clash of the universe spilled blood after blood of blood, and in the eye of the hurricane two stand together, apart. In one burns eyes of the hottest flame, in the other the coldest waters. Wind whips around them as the end of the world draws nigh. Fire and ice swirl as the stars blink out one by one. Individuality has vanished as the burning army and the frozen army fight at a draw, except for two. One with the starlight in their eyes, one with the sunlight. Twin gazes of anger and sorrow, twin gazes of pain. They are stuck in fire and ice. Fire and ice has become them. They grasp the handles of their sheathed swords, ready to take them out. Their movements are mirrors of each other, one in an inversion of the other. Neither says a word as they both reach out their free hand. Their fingers touch. In a blaze and a blizzard, the two have become one, fire and water, sun and star. What's the difference anyway? They embrace as reality collapses around them. The second one asks, how can I one up that with nothing but a truth? Starry eyes, built to witness the thing's demise, starry eyes, a sign of a shortened life. The third one says, a story and a truth. How about I add a sorrow? An ocean breeze is forever rustles the gull's wings. Its will is simple. Make it to the sunken island. Spread wide, it skims the waves, never stopping. It longs for food. Its skeletal corpse lies at that sunken island, a remnant of a long forgotten breeze, a windy riptide.
And Rio, did you want to read more? We have,
No.
okay. Rio, thank you so much for reading that. When we will eventually send the chat to you, and there's lots and lots of comments in there from people in the audience. So I'd like to open it up to questions or comments from everybody for both Rio and Karen, either about their work, about being a poet laureate, or whatever. And so I'm going to switch my view so I can see everybody. And if you have a question or comment, if you could raise your hand or put up the little hand icon. Yeah, Beth.
I'm just so intrigued, Rio, with the incredible, power in your poetry in that poem. How does it feel to be a poet laureate? And how did you get this position? I mean, this is very, very exciting to me.
Is this a question for me?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Well, you should probably ask Karen. It's her project, and she was the poet laureate for quite some time.
Well, let me ask you this. How did it feel to read to us tonight?
I don't feel much when I read poems.
Well, thanks. You put a lot into the words then.
Mhm.
I can tell you that Rio was, there was a great pool of applicants that we had. So we put out a call. This was done through the Northampton Arts Council. We put out a call to all the schools. The requirement for our first one, we wanted the student to be living, I want to make sure I get this right. Living in and going to school in Northampton, Florence, or Leeds, but it might have been just one of those. Now I can't remember. You know how you get done with a project and it's like, whoop, details are gone. But it was something like that, and that might change for future years. But that's what we really wanted, somebody who was close by in the community, for the first one. And so we had a wonderful group of applicants, teenagers who were so invested and just love poetry. It was so exciting to we had to whittle it down. I think we ended up interviewing 6 maybe. And then further, obviously whittling it down because we had to make a choice. And we loved Rio. We loved everything that Rio brought to the table. And we love their poetry and personality and big ideas. I think Rio is just someone who had so much amazing energy, and we were just blown away. So that's how Rio got chosen. So
I disagree. I don't think I'm qualified. I think you should have brought Morgan in. They'd be significantly better at this than I am.
Sorry. Nope, no mistakes were made.
I don't know. Morgan's poetry is awesome.
Morgan's
Rio, I think
poetry
we're
is
here to
awesome, and
tell
Morgan
you.
is welcome to apply again next time.
I really
Rio,
hope they do.
We are here to tell you that Karen was right. All these people here are standing.
I don't know. I need to learn how to code during April break, and that my entire life and livelihood depends on that. So
You know what? It'll be a worthy project for you. Everyone should, especially your age, should learn to code. So if being Youth Poet Laureate and thinking about that project gets you to work on coding, then that is awesome.
Are there other questions for either Rio or Karen? Yeah. It says Dina, but I know it's not Dina.
I'm Shel Horowitz. Dina's on another device, but we used the same link to log on. So to each of you, thank you. Those were great. Karen, I just really loved the way you wrapped the pandemic around spoons. It's just a whole fresh way of looking at it. Rio, when I was going to a lot of poetry readings in my youth, there were lots and lots of programmers writing poetry. They're surprisingly compatible. But I'm wondering if you could give us a link to that poem somewhere, because it went by really fast, and it was kind of just this barrel of words coming at me, and I couldn't really sort it out.
Sure. Do you want me to just copy paste it in the chat or something?
That'd be great.
Okay, I can do that.
And I have a question for Karen. So I heard a little bit more this time, I think, than I've ever heard before. A little bit of your life with engineering coming into your poetry. How are you being influenced by the engineering students?
Oh my gosh, so much. So because since I teach writing to engineers, they teach me so much about their work that they do, and it's really it's great. If there were a type of engineering where you just knew a little bit about all the types of engineering, I could be that engineer. So, but I have no depth in it, of course, and so they do teach me a lot. And you know, if you've ever studied you know, language, very specialized language in any field, it's so wonderful. And so I'm married to an engineer, and my kids could very well end up being engineers, and certainly I teach engineers. And so I write down their phrase, you know, the great phrases and things that they use. And you know, yeah, and then suddenly things like confidence intervals start showing up in your poems and things like that. And so that's really interesting of you to notice that, Jacqueline.
Well, I'm a big fan of your work, and I've really loved your poetry that focused on your time in the military. And
thank you.
And how, you know, there was a long gap in perspective for you to look back on that experience. And I think that added a lot of depth to that poetry. We have other questions or comments for our two poet laureates.
What are the expectations of the poet laureate?
Oh, you mean the adult?
No, well, for Rio, what do you get out of this position, or how will you participate in your community?
I don't know. I do readings. I do a poetry project. There isn't much else to it.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that is a lot.
Stephanie.
Yeah, hi Rio. As the grandmother of two aspiring poets, one 9 tomorrow actually, and the other 12, I'm wondering, do you visit either Jackson Street School and or JFK Middle School? Or will you be?
That's no, but I'm certain I could. I've been to both those schools.
Would you
I have
consider it?
connections.
Maybe Karen will make it happen. It would be so wonderful. I mean, it would be such an inspiration to young writers like them to meet you.
Sure.
It would be exciting.
That's such a good idea.
Tell your child happy almost birthday.
I sure will.
Rio and I are going to be at the Northampton Senior Center. What month is that, Rio? Are we going in May, June? I can't remember. But coming up.
I don't know. Did that one even come through? I feel like
I think it's happening. There was a lot of course, like we're opening up. No, wait, no, we're not opening up. Yes. So I think it is going to happen
this year, which is anyway.
We'll figure it out when we get there.
And I have one more question for the both of you. How has Amanda Gorman influenced young poets? And well, I guess just that. I'll just stop with that. I'm just wondering if she had a direct influence on young poets.
I have a book of her poetry that I got for Christmas. I like her poems, but they're nothing near the style I write. And I mean, I don't know. My main influence is actually just like Emily Dickinson, because I can go visit her house if I want to. And also her poems are more fantastical like mine.
Hmm. Mhm. Uh-huh.
Her lyricism. So I came in late, Rio. Do you speak Spanish? Santo?
Rio, did you hear that question?
Oh, me, Spanish. No, I can understand a bit of it, but I do not
Okay.
speak Spanish.
Okay. I saw your name and I said, oh, maybe she is Latina.
No, I'm biracial. One of my parents is white, the other one is African American. My name is a
Oh,
funny story.
okay.
So regarding my first name, my parents called me Rio with a Y before I was born. It was short for embryo, but they thought that was weird, so they renamed me Rio with an I. For my last name, you should ask my mom. I forgot that story.
That's cool. I was just wondering how your name shaped your writing.
Elvilde, was that another question?
Yes, the question was how did her name inspire her writing?
I mean, not really at all. I essentially write novel starts. I'm like, okay, this isn't fleshed out enough to be an actual novel, so I write a poem instead.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you. Any last questions? And I'll click over to the other page to make sure I'm not missing anybody. All right. Okay, Stephanie, yeah.
One more, I wrote it in the chat, but I may as well ask it because the other people might want to know. Rio, is your poetry accessible anywhere to read? You know, I'd like to share it with my granddaughters in case you don't get to those schools.
Right, yeah. No, it's complicated. I'm sure I can, I don't know, whip up a Google site and put my poetry there, but
I'll stay
I mean,
tuned.
it can be. How about I how about I just send my poetry to Beth or someone who could send it out to all of you? I don't
That
know.
would be so awesome. That would be really great. Thanks.
Thank you. And Karen, where could we find your book?
Well, you can go on the dreaded Amazon. My book Battle Dress is also sold directly through Norton, my publisher, and my first book was published through Zone 3 Press. And so that would be available there as well. And small press distribution, bookstores have them.
Great, thank you. And thank you both. This was really a first. I am totally delighted that you could be here. If everybody wants to unmute for a minute, we can show them a little love. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Really amazing.
And you are most welcome to stay for the open mic, or if you have other obligations, we will understand. All right, that was wonderful. That was wonderful. So
Okay, okay. Can we get Gary on the mic?
Can we get Gary on the mic?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Gary.
Is it my turn to read?
Well, no, hang on, everybody. Okay,
Okay.
so now what I am going to do is I'm going to read the 10 names that I pulled. And I'm going to give them to Rick, and then Rick will take this away. Everybody ready for that?
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. And the first one is Gary.
Hey.
The second is Marion Van Arsdale. Marion. The second is Madeline, and not Madeline Z, but our second Marion. Lexi. Jess. Simon. Martha. Dina. Chris. And Celia. All right, and I'm going to hand it over to Rick.
Okay, here we go. You have 5 minutes to read. At 4 minutes, I'll give you some kind of warning like that. And at 5 minutes, I do that, and then I come through the screen and strangle you. Okay, that was a joke. Really, I don't think ever we've had 3 poet laureates in a row reading. And so Gary is our first one. He was the first East Hampton Poet Laureate. So pretty cool. So Gary, go get him. You're up.
Thank you, everyone. Karen, thank you for those lovely poems. Rio, I just wanted to say, I taught high school English for 31 years. I taught at Hampshire Regional High School in West Hampton. And one of my freshman students had poems very similar to the one you read tonight, in the same vein, the same kind of imagery and stuff. And he published his first book when he was a sophomore at Bard College. So there's a lot of hope for young writers like yourself, and good luck to you with everything. Let me read a few short poems. The first one celebrates Ukrainian folk tradition, the engagement. The bride-to-be sews a pillow for the marriage bed. Cross stitches a design from Ukraine, so old it's not in any book, but shown by grandmothers to mother to daughter. The cloth white as a winter field near Lviv. The needle pulls thread tight. A red, deep as pain or love, works its way through snow. The green and brown of earth live again in young hands. A thin gold line is hope for greedless wealth. Pink is for baby's cheek. 2 blues color sky and dream. Black confines the shapes. At the pillow center, a bird flies. She locks the bird in chains of diamonds far from the flowers along the edge. Each time the needle enters cloth, she whispers, "Does he love me?" 1,000 stitches, 1,000 whispers, and in the last knot, tucked and tufted on the inside where no one can see, is the answer. I worked construction when I was a pretty young man, teenager even, and this poem deals with that experience, anonymous donation. It got to 27 below that winter, which is harsh for Massachusetts, even as far west as the hills near Pittsfield. I mixed stucco that week by hand. The mixing bed was splashed with ice. We set it on the cement floor of a large box. The box became a luxury condominium. With every third pull of the hoe, I rested to let the lungs thaw, to exhale a cloud and waste a moment watching my crystal breath. Such scenery would never be framed and hung on these walls when finished. So I mixed it into the stucco and quit the job. That poem and the next one are from my new book, Vanishing Points, published this past October by Dos Madres Press in Ohio. This one is called Lint. It doesn't bother me to have lint at the bottoms of pant pockets. It gives the hands something to do, especially since I no longer hold shovel, hod, or hammer in the daylight hours of labor and haven't in fact done so in 55 years. A long time to be picking lint from pockets, perhaps even long enough to have gathered sacks full of lint that could have been put to good use. Maybe spun into yarn to knit a sweater for my wife's Christmas present, or strong thread whirled and woven into a tweedy jacket. Imagine entering my classroom in a jacket made from lint. Who would believe it? Yet there are stranger things. The son of a bricklayer with hands so smooth they're only fit for picking lint. Thank you.
Geez, thanks, Gary. The first one, just you couldn't have picked a better time for that, to pull out a Ukrainian poem. And the second one was just terrific. It was blue collar all the way down, blue collar, beautiful. And the last one, poignant, funny in a way, and loved it. I'm glad you're here. Really glad you showed up tonight. Appreciate it. Glad
Thanks, Ray.
Okay. Mary Ann, you're next. 5 minutes.
I think it is Marion, right?
Oh.
Van Arsdale.
Okay, yes.
Great, that's fine.
Okay, sorry.
This piece is called Waiting. This is the hour of dread before we turn on the news. Ask Alexa to find Morning Edition. We stand barefoot in the kitchen, our robes sashed tight around us, protecting us from the cold moving up our legs from the linoleum floor. We are waiting the way they must have gathered around radio consoles in the 40s for the fireside chats, for the news of a war they could only hear about at home. The newsreels came before the opening feature in movie houses in towns large enough to have one. Later, it will be the hour in early evening when we set up the card table in the family room so we can watch the news, the awful rendering of another day. This day was made from suffering beamed around the world in real time. Shells hitting apartment houses and city halls. The first, a kindergarten, where small children ran terrified or hid under low tables, while books and toys were scattered by explosions from shelves onto the floor. Families are sleeping in subway stations. Tents are set up by some with a row of shoes lying neatly by the front door. Others mark their space with mattresses or cots, hang blankets for some modicum of privacy. I said to my children, it's not safe to stay in our house, a young woman says into the camera. I did not use the word war. I don't want them to hear that word. I want to keep them safe. We're in the subway station, another mother says, so they don't have to hear the bombing. But when I see news on my phone, I am crying. Only after my children are asleep. I'm trying to be positive with my daughter. I am happy we don't hear what's going on up there. I think I am dreaming and I have to wake up, an older woman says. A woman my age, perhaps, who sits in a folding camp chair. in an alcove deep in the subway. Behind her, a cot is made neatly with quilts, and plastic shopping bags line the space beside her chair. It is not a new war for us, she tells the reporter. Now we are 40 million people united who want only to live on this land. That's all. Just live on this land. This is the hour of resistance. Grandmothers are learning to fill bottles with oil or gasoline in a brewery converted to a small munitions plant. Capped and wicked, the bottles fill cases carried to the backs of vans or trunks of cars, fanned out to villages and key points in every city to fight Goliath, rolling, halting, rolling again, the miles closing in on them. For many, this is the hour of fleeing, of crowding the trains, joining the car caravans that stretch for miles toward Poland. I'm leaving everything behind except for the children and whatever they could find to quickly tie into a bundle or fit into a suitcase on wheels. On the news, I see a man explain he is the grandfather bringing the daughter and the children to the border. He slides open the van door the way my brothers might to deliver their grands to an outing. And there they are looking out, women and children, apprehensive, stuffed animals held tight by the youngest. And then I will go back, he says, to join the men who stayed behind to be ready to fight. How does it feel to leave your home, your family? A reporter asks young women on the other side, waiting in line for hot soup and bread, with water. Snow is falling around them. I have no words for this, the young woman says. I have no words. Safe in my warm house, watching this unfold, their faces haunt me. What would I say if this reporter asked me, how does it feel to have a front row seat at the invasion that Russian law has ruled cannot be called a war? I have no words, I would have to say. I have no words.
Oh, thank you. I think you did what good writing should do, which is makes things personal and present, and you captured it. And it's much better listening to you than watching that crap on television.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You made my night. Yeah. Madeline.
Hi, I'm going to read two poems, and I guess we all have a lot of similar things on our mind these days. The first is called My Grandmother Dated Russian Boys. I dated Russian boys, my grandmother tells us, her dimples deepening, twinkling as she recalls days of youth before escaping, when Cossacks raided, her father left behind. It was not a land worth fighting for, never really her family's home, just a place they lived before arriving here. Are the great-grandsons of those Russian boys with forgotten names on the front lines today? I prefer to think of them on peace marches or in prison, those descendants of the boys who dared to date the Jewess. Persecution is in my genes, inherited along with recipes and rituals, as well as the curiosity that led my teenage grandmother to venture from the shtetl, to attend the Russian school, to visit the homes of Russian teachers who carelessly mixed milk with meat, disregarding their differences. And this one is called Today's News. The story of atrocities screams out from the front page until the end of the column of words. The story continues on page 5. In between is the weather report. I stopped to follow the progress of early spring's longer days, full sunshine, warming temperatures, delightful. Turning pages, today's atrocities pick up with images of rubble, devastation, tears running down children's pale faces. A cartoon follows for our amusement, then notices of upcoming fun, fairs, and festivals. The word atrocity repeats until it is familiar, so commonplace it almost loses its meaning. It's just another atrocity, one might say. Red is the color of blood as it spills across the globe from bodies whose skin tones reflect a spectrum of hues, light to dark. Today's crumbled headlines continue screaming with news as the paper is thrown on a pile going back to the beginning of time.
Oh, God. You guys are killing me. It's wonderful, beautiful, heart-rending. And I love your grandmother.
I do too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
right. Oh, man, way to go. Yay. Okay, Lexi.
Okie dokie. Well, we got something a lot lighter here. This is from the book I'm writing on, Dancing with Words. This is called, and it's a minute or two, Happy. Pharrell Williams was singing Happy in the supermarket this morning, and I automatically started to dance. I was pleased that I didn't have to think about it. However, there are times in all of our lives when we have to think about happiness, when we're sad, nervous, angry, anxious, disappointed. We need to find something to switch the channel. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule encourages us to count down from 5 to 1 and focus on something we are grateful for. Deep breathing, meditation, yoga, a walk in the woods, all are actions that can change our mindset. We just need to be sure that we carve out some time from our thick wall of protection that we surround ourselves with when we're not happy. Last year, I bought a new book called The Atlas of Happiness, The Global Secrets of How to Be Happy. It's by Helen Russell, the author of The Year of Living Danishly. It includes many, many views of happiness, international views, and they include Smultronstad is Swedish and means a lovely spot where you can forget your troubles. Gezellig from the Netherlands means cozy, warm, feeling for what's old and quaint, for the beauty of age and acceptance of imperfection. Wabi Sabi is something I have written about that I so believe in. I have included it with the concept of hygge, a Danish word similar to Gezellig, but the warm, cozy feeling doesn't necessarily come from old and quaint. Danish furniture is modern, but the arrangement and lighting and family and friends contribute to this wonderful feeling of hygge. As I collect these words and celebrate their importance, I'm reminded that I used to have no problem finding happiness, even when suffering life-threatening ailments or devastating happenings. And so as I look around my house at my favorite colors, green and orange, I appreciate the blending of hygge, wabi-sabi, and now Gezellig. I've got lots of old stuff. I think I'll make a sign for the secret garden at the back of the yard, Smultronstad. It's time to reread the Atlas of Happiness. I'll further my study of happiness. I will also incorporate the Jewish concept of tikkun olam, performing acts of kindness to repair the world. Of course, the world will never be perfect, but then, hey, wabi sabi, perfection is highly overrated.
Well, happy's a tough time right now. I wish I were happier. I wish we all happier. I had a little problem listening because it kind of faded in and out. He got frozen a few times. But what I caught, I liked a lot.
Thank you.
If you can teach us how to be happy, I'll pay you. I swear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jess, come on down.
Hi, everyone. This is a short piece I wrote the other day about spring. It seems we're all sort of on the same page about everything. And I titled this piece, The Promise of Spring. It's not just about warmer weather and flowers and lighter, longer days and open windows and birds and local produce popping up. Though these things are very important, it's also about hopefully getting a clean bill of health after another CAT scan and perhaps being able to see loved ones, possibly a visit with family in Boston or Cape Cod, or having a small get together at our place in the mountains with friends. Thinking about the warmer weather now, I want to wear fewer socks and more tutus. And thinking of flowers, I want to see Miami pink tulips, Ukraine yellow sunflowers, and Portland purple roses sprouting across the yards in the farm country where I live now. Lighter, longer days means cornhole games. This may sound silly, but it's actually very serious. During the height of the pandemic and pre-vaccines, I only saw my parents in their backyard about once a week, and we were wearing masks and socially distancing. I didn't hug them for 398 days. That still doesn't seem real. I came up with the idea of buying personalized cornhole sets so we'd have an activity that we could do together safely. We played in 100-degree heat waves and below freezing temperatures throughout 2020 and 2021. Now it's tradition and a pretty serious competition, and we can hug. Open windows and more fresh air is a true luxury. My husband and I moved to a house last October, and the simple joy of opening our own windows and being able to go outside feels miraculous. I lived in a downtown apartment complex for 8 years, ever the city girl, until the pandemic, when the nonsense of the irresponsible nearly killed me there. The kicker is my husband and I never lived together until March 2020, with he being a flight attendant and me working in international education. We'd only spent weekends and vacations together until then, and we've known each other over 11 years. Spring also means it's our 3rd wedding anniversary, which was on March 23rd, the happiest day. And thinking of birds, I want to get a bird feeder, but I fear the bears. Fear, fucking fear, is still the darkest cloud encompassing me when it comes to the outside world due to my health and my concerns for others in compromised situations. While most of society seems to have moved on from the last 2 years, some of us simply cannot quite yet. With a bird feeder, perhaps a cardinal will swing by my kitchen window while I cook. My family lost our dear sweet pooch Ludi in January at the age of 95 in human years, and supposedly cardinals are a sign of those who we lost and are coming to say hello, visitors. And thinking about local produce popping up, I can almost taste the tomatoes growing on the farm across the street. They look as sweet as candy.
Well, you made me hunger for spring and then summer. I can't wait. I'm glad you're back. You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yay.
Okay. Yeah.
Good. We'll talk later, okay?
Yes, we will.
I like that. Okay.
Thank you,
Simon.
Rick.
Thank you, Jess. Simon, you're up.
Thank you very much. I wonder if anybody could give me a thumbs up that you can see and hear me okay? Great, thank you. I appreciate it. My name's Simon. It's nice to meet you all in this way. I don't think I know anybody here except Chris O'Carroll. I'm new to Massachusetts and just really glad to be included tonight. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to say a couple of short poems. The first one is one I've been working on this week, a new one. It's called Why the Wharf Beggars Feed the Gulls. These gulls aren't graceful birds. They never wheel across the sky and are not known for gliding. Theirs is a kind of clumsy, flappy flying, as if beginners lacking skill or feel. Consider, though, that folding sea fog wing, the perfect cream down rich girl white of breast, the spot of red with which the beak is blessed, the canny, hungry eye that seems to say, there are some places only travelers go. For this much bread, I'll tell you what I know. And then I'm going to read an older poem. This is a sonnet called Divorced. Alone at last, he sits and counts his things. 3 rooms, a gun, this silence, clothes, a shelf for books and music. Next to them, the rings, and carved from pine, a box he made himself. He'd meant it as a gift, but kept it when he left. Divorce preempted birthday. Now it stores his keys and watch, his change and pen, the pad he'd write on if he remembered how. He's drafted letters documenting scorn, but cannot now take aim. His hand just falls. He lists the children named but never born and writes her name. Starts, stops, can't think, then scrawls. We ended things too slowly, but so soon. I miss you as the sun might miss the moon.
Wow.
And then if I haven't been strangled yet, I got one more short one to finish up. This is a
You
poem.
got 3 minutes to go. Fire away.
Perfect, perfect. I'll slow down even. This is a poem called Like a Bridge, kind of riffs on a Simon and Garfunkel song. Like a Bridge. Before I knew I loved you, and some months before you felt you had to say you did not love me back, I grabbed your hand and pulled you past distracted bouncers down to where the VIPs got folding chairs. We heard a song or two before they kicked us out and back upstairs. Still hand in hand, we gazed upon the man who sang your favorite one, a song already old by then, the '83 reunion. And how much older it seems now, as I, at 50, sing along with art on my car radio. I've got my hands at 10 and 2. But even so, I can't forget the way your right felt in my left, and how he sounded on the night, the sidekick to the one thought great. He stole the show with that one song. I'll Google you when I get home. I hope you're well and not alone. I hope you've got your radio on. Thanks very much, everybody.
Well, hey, Simon, you going to come back?
Sure.
Okay. I hope you do. The first one I loved. It's all 3 of them. I can't read my handwriting. Obviously, it was Simon and Garfunkel. You're no relation?
No, none. Simon's my first name.
Yeah, no, yeah. Anyway, so I'm glad you're here. Thank you. I love the rhythm of your stories, your poems too. There was a nice cadence to that. Really, it was great.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Martha, is that right? Did I write that correctly? No.
Yes, Martha.
Yes. Okay. You're up. Oh, hi.
Okay. Hi. I am definitely putting myself in a different view. Thanks so much for this chance to read. It's wonderful to be here and hear so much great work. I have 3 or 4 short poems. The first is a museum poem called The Museum. A dry weaver bird's nest strung from a branch, least weasel and wolverine, red stilt-legged wolf, spotted, clouded, striped snarl of predators, a rearing herd mid-flight of heavy antlered elk. In a dim room, the jerboa's little match girl ribs, lone glass bee, thirsty among so many flowers. Frayed fawn curled in its glass case, in its air of alertness, in its pale twist of grass. War movie. In the street, Team Giant Eagle is fighting Team Fresh City for the potable water. Neighbor, please don't shoot. At night, out comes everyone whose job it is to be terrible. In the ruins of the lock and load bait and ammo shop, Polyphemus wrestles John Galt for the last Kalashnikov. Here we go, all against all against all. Fired from a cartoon cannon, a head hurtles into a red abyss, deflating fought balloon, still whispering, have mercy. Abyss still whispering, no. Flight. The soundtrack is less blackbird whistle, more helicopters whomping overhead. Surely the times call for fire. When I was a child, refugees fled through old newsreels, bundled, lumpy with small valuables, pushing wheelbarrows down burning winter streets towards some border or small town where one has a cousin. Now it's half the world in the transit of drowning and fire. We are already pacing the chilly waiting room, hoping to be awake when this is fine turns into get out now. And the last poem I'll read is called Wheel. After hungry ghosts come animals, then the human world. Why have we stopped? Has there been an accident, or is this the experience we paid for? Our gondola rocks at the apogee. Please be still. Please don't overturn this creaky boat. The world falls away in all directions. The checkered map stretches toward mystery. The fear below is tiny, small as a nutshell. The wheel groans, sweet sour music rising on the smell of burning sugar. Death gnaws the wheel. We are exactly between his fangs, between the dizzy rise and fall, joy. Thanks.
Thank you. I saw some of the chat's comments as you were reading, and they were beautiful. Like, I love this. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Send that stuff out, please.
Oh, actually, it's in my book, my new book.
Better. Sell that book. Good. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Dina. Dina, where you at?
Okay, I'm here.
There you are.
Okay, continuing on a theme. This is called Nike Reimagined, and it's an acrostic prose poem taken from the bas-relief on the Parthenon's temple. 1. The bas-relief on the Parthenon's temple of Athena is damaged. Nike, the winged goddess of victory, has no face. In 410 BCE, before the Common Era, she has stopped to adjust her sandal. In 2022 CE, the all too common era, war rages because the invader wants to save his face. He is threatening annihilation, mushroom clouds. I envision standing on a Disney simulation moonscape, ogling at explosions on the horizon, but I will not think about that. I will go to the store and buy portobellos, and I will check the shiitake logs in the garage, the ones we drilled holes into last year to incubate the fungus. 2. In elementary school history, all we learned about were wars. In 6th grade, our assembly presentation started with the American Revolution and went all the way up to World War II. They knew better than to mention Vietnam. Our country was losing its war winning streak, and we wanted to save face. Though we also learned how the Native Americans, whom the teacher called Indians, sold Manhattan to the European settlers for an array of goods valued at $24. How stupid they were to sell Manhattan for trinkets, our teachers said. 3. Yesterday, the wind was so fierce, our newspaper blew out of the chute and across the field. Only a piece of it could be rescued. The rest landed where water pooled in the muck. In Russia, all unapproved news has been suspended. On NPR, a story of 2 premature babies smuggled across the Ukrainian border. The reporter kept losing cell phone service as the driver of the babies crossed dead zones. 4. A foundation remains under Nike's disappeared face, outlining a kyphotic neck and high forehead, the slope of the nose broken at the jagged edge of the broken wall. In contrast, the marble drape over the breast and thigh leaves little to be imagined. 5. It's hard to think about Nike without conjuring up sweatshops or a white swish on Lycra, the kind of thing I might wear if I needed to run through war-torn streets and had to give it my all. In Russia, McDonald's has joined Starbucks, Pepsi, and Coca-Cola, all the best America has to offer in pulling out of the country. The needless human suffering is against their values, they say. Burger King and KFC are still there, finger-licking good. Have it your way. 6. This morning, I exercised the point of pant, running in bare feet to keep my heart rate elevated and hopeful. Snow in the forecast, but only enough to cover the grass, not the roads. I tell my husband we should stack the chairs on the deck that we brought out of the garage prematurely. Today's newspaper intact, we read about besieged cities over breakfast. The field is still March mucky, the sky shrouded with a patina of gray. Silence on the horizon, we wait for impossibilities. Nike's face emerging from the images of a stone wall and a time in the not so common era when history will only be about the sheer pleasure of flying. Thank you.
Oh, boy. When did you write that?
I wrote it in March, like the end of March, maybe, maybe the first or second week into the war. I don't remember.
Sounds like it's right, like it was today. I mean, it's just perfect for the time. I unintentionally wore the Ukrainians colors today, just by accident, but good accident. Thank you. I mean, it's really hit all the everything that needed to be hit. It was beautiful. So Chris, you're next. Chris O'Carroll.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm going to start with a springtime poem. This has an epigraph from Robert Frost. My right might be love, but theirs was need. And where the two exist in twain, theirs was the better right, agreed. So this is 2 chipmunks in crocus time. The smallest bud vase we could find adorns the windowsill. One tattered bloom is all that's left. Striped raiders ate their fill. Last fall, we set a dozen corms, and on their black loam bed we scattered cayenne pepper for a fiery shield of red. Deep winter held them hard and safe. We dreamed a springtime show of color from the dark beneath the patient weight of snow. The tender season, newly warm and damp, thrust up our prize, raised cups of gold and purple cheer, good health to ice-dulled eyes. We should have reapplied cayenne, a fresh dose of protection. Next day we found the flowers felled, shredded past resurrection. The eaters need. So we'd say, if we believed what one old poet sings, I'm adding buy more pepper to my list of things to do and studying a recipe for homemade chipmunk stew. Now, here's a poem about another plant, one that is now legal to grow and consume in Massachusetts, if you catch my drift. I don't grow my own, but friends who do tell me that this plant thrives in our New England climate, and you can end up with a lot more produce than you had counted on. So this is abundant buzz. Our plants, they grow like weeds, are legal now. We raise these babies from prime proven seed, as many as our state laws will allow. Each year, we harvest more crop than we need. We press gift bags on friends and family, both herb and cookies, home baked with homegrown. Moist, chewy fruitcakes laced with THC, the minds of all our Christmas guests have blown. We're on the lookout for new recipes. Try skewered buds to garnish your martini. What can we do to make you take some? Please help. Ganja has become the new zucchini. And I will finish up with this poem. One of my brothers is a doctor, and it's become kind of a family tradition to donate our bodies to the med school where he studied. Yeah, some people do that because they really want to help educate the next generation of doctors. For me, it's just a great way to save money on funeral expenses. When the time comes, my kids ship dead dad off to the med school. A semester or two later, they get back a box of ashes and a thank you note, and no invoice from the funeral home. That's a sweet deal. The only drawback is that when the time comes and young doctors in training are availing themselves of my donation, I won't be able to have a word with them about the situation. So I'd like to have a word with them here this evening. To a medical student dissecting my cadaver, you'll see me from many an angle I myself could never wangle. And I don't know how much respect it's reasonable to expect, as all my scars and imperfections yield to your intimate inspections. In your shoes, I might deride me while I looked around inside me, eyeing the organs I abused by what I didn't use or used. So feel entitled to a joke about the flesh you slice and poke. Saving lives and easing pain are worthwhile skills you hope to gain from what my innards can reveal. If laughter aids that, no big deal. I will be too deceased to mind your quips about what you might find. Someday, your manner by the bed of any patient who's not dead will feature sober empathy. But cut yourself some slack with me. Thank you.
Jesus, you got me again. You made me laugh. That was beautiful. On such a topic that we're all facing sooner than we want to. Hey, and your second one just reminded me of, like, everybody's going back to the college years. You know, I can't hear you. I can't see you because you froze. There you are.
I'm here. I can hear you fine. I can see you fine.
You froze up on the screen, but as again, always terrific stuff.
Thank you.
Love it. Okay. And last but not least, by any means, Celia.
Hey, thanks everyone. And I have enjoyed every word. And I'm only going to do one poem, and that way we can all stay on time and go on our merry way. This poem is entitled How to Write a Walk Through Smith College Poem. Choose to walk like a local, grateful eyes open across the downtown campus. Notice the welcoming gate, the pond. Take time to look closely at architectural angled views. The coveted college, mostly closed to the public, quiet, except for the sound of repeated breath you hear inside your head, every light shadowed footstep that follows you, and a miracle, music coming from Sage Hall Auditorium. The play of one student of Gershwin practicing an arrangement at a piano on an almost empty stage, taking jazzy liberty with the original composer's song. Listen as it floats on air out the open music hall window and into your ears, accompanied by a late March breeze. When Rhapsody in Blue mood strikes just the right note that confirms recognition of the popular song, buoyant style, and happy, unrestrained musical phrases, move on for no other reason than to follow this vernal equinox day of sun. Walk over to the geology display outside the Science Center. Always a good place to reflect on how nature balances time. Sit as stone, perfectly still for the moment, there in the rock park. Igneous, metamorphic, sedimentary, and when the soft heart presses into service, text yourself in sunshine some poetic thoughts. Do not feel obligated to retrace your steps. Consider climbing the gentle hillside walk that leads away from the campus greenhouse alongside a field of just about to open daffodils. Pick up small, fallen, sun-kissed branches of Hatfield yew. Bring them back home to replace the wintered spruce tucked in your porch planter boxes where a pair of common finches will nest again this spring.
I have to slow down when I go past Smith now. I should actually park the car and get out and walk around. You made it very inviting. Terrific. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, I want to say one thing before we leave. I want to put a plug in. I started with the Long Meadow Adult or Senior Center, called Adult Center, to have people from Straw Dog Writers Guild come down once a month to do their readings and answer some questions. The first one is going to be April 21st on Thursday at 6:45. Michael Goldman is going to be the, not the feature reader, the only reader. And I would really love it if we could get some people there. This is the first one. We're going to try it for 4 months, see how it works. And if we get some numbers, we'll continue it. So if you're in the neighborhood, if you want to take a drive down 91, come on in. I'll buy you a beer when we're done, if that'll help you. Anyway, that's it. Great night. Thank you all 10 of you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Rick, why don't you put your email if you want to in the chat for people to contact you if they'd like to read?
I would do that, but how do I do that?
Okay, I'll take care of it. Don't worry.
Okay.
And I'm sorry to cut in. Jacqueline, since we started recording a little bit into your talk, would you mind just giving your announcement that you started out with?
Oh, yeah, gladly. So it might not have been recorded, but now you get to hear it twice. So we're in our fundraising season for Straw Dog Writers. And we've started a little late this year for our fundraiser. We sort of skipped 2021 for some reason. So our May Writers Night Out will start at 6:30. So when you get your Zoom login, you can log in at 6:30, and there'll be sort of a special edition called Wine and Chocolate. And it will talk about, we will be talking about sort of the history of Writers Night Out, how we got started. And it will be our very first MC, Nyla Maria. Chris O'Carroll will do a special presentation. Our current MC will be there. And then at 7, we'll have our regular Writers Night Out. During that time, we are really urging people, if you can, to make a donation to Straw Dog Writers. And some of you have already done that, and I'm so grateful for those of you who have. Becky will be with us to take your donations at that time. PayPal is a great way to do it. In June, our June Writers Night Out will be our first live Writers Night Out since March 2020, and it will be at Michelson Gallery. Our featured reader will be Magdalena Gomez, and I think some of you might know Magdalena. She is terrific. Magdalena is just terrific. She has a book coming out too, so this will be pretty close to her book launch. What else about that? I think that was it. So thanks. And at that point, we'll also be announcing where our new sort of permanent Writers Night Out location will be, as long as COVID doesn't come roaring back. We're going to go back to in-person starting in June, but then at our new location in July. Does anyone have any, are there any announcements that anybody has about anything that is coming up that we need to know about? Yeah, Becky.
I wanted to just announce the next 2 craft programs. Justine Diamond will be doing a workshop on April 23rd, 10:30 in the morning on a Saturday on Zoom. about spending time with your characters, getting to know them a little bit better. And then on May 21st at the Center for the Arts, we are doing an in-person event with Ron Welburn. This is an event on poetry, and he had led one last year and it got sort of aborted halfway through. So we are having him again and hope that people will show up in person at that event at the Center for the Arts on May 21st.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements of anything coming up that you want people to know about? Okay, I just looked at page 2. Well, thank you, everybody. It was great to hear someone as young as Rio reading tonight. It was just terrific. I think she has no idea how terrific a writer she is, and I guess that makes sense at that age. And I thank you, everybody, and we will see you next month at 6:30.
Good night.
Unmute yourselves and say good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Oh, hi, hi, hi.